Straight all day.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together to a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to build better habits. This is a subject that almost every day, actually it's been about every day now, as more people join my texting community. When somebody joins and I'm asking them, what is a challenge that you're dealing with, or the biggest challenge that you're dealing with right now, often the challenge is something around the concept of habits. It's something that someone wants to do more consistently. They want to do it better, but they're not quite there yet. We're going to get into that in a moment. But first, let me tell everyone I have a daily motivation text message that I send out for free every single day to everyone who's in my text community. If you want to be in my community and get my daily motivation text, a message that I guarantee will keep you focused, sharp, and on point every day, all you got to do is text me at my number 305-384-6894. Every day when I send that message out, then after you do that, you will be receiving my daily motivation text. The number's down below in the show notes as well. So again, when it comes to this thing about topics, almost everyone who is, all of us are dealing with some type of challenge in our lives right now, and most of the time that challenge is based around something that is habitual, because usually when we solve the challenge, we want to keep it solved, right? We get ourselves better, we want to stay better. You don't want to just get better right now and then go back to being bad 2 days from now. So it's a habit, something that we do over and over and over again, and because we repeat the action, this successful action, this habit that is leading to success, we get successful results that are duplicatable, repeatable. And like I tell people all the time, when it comes to repeating your success, you want consistent inputs, duplicatable processes, and predictable results. So let's get a definition of what this word habit is. It means a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. That is what a habit is. 85% of what we do are habitual. I told you that in my book, Work on Your Game. And if you don't have a copy of my book, Work on Your Game, you can see it right here. You can't get it through the computer screen, wherever you are watching this, but you can get yourself a copy. This is a hardcover book. You can get that by going to workonyourgamebook.com. That's one place you can get it. You also get it when you claim your free copy of my books, The Third Day or The Mirror of Motivation. The links to both of those are listed down below in the show notes. On the second page in both of those sales funnels, you will be offered the Mental Game Super Duper Bundle. And the Mental Game Super Duper Bundle includes Work on Your Game, the Mental Workbook, 30 Days of Discipline, and Bulletproof Mindset. That's 4 books in that Super Duper Bundle, of which Work on Your Game is one. Again, if you don't have this book, this lays out the entire Work on Your Game framework and how it came about through my own life experiences. So it's not a memoir, it's a business book, but my story is told in there. So if you want to know more about why Work on Your Game is what it is, that book will explain to you how I lived out things that led to what you now know as Work on Your Game. Now, as I said in that book, 85% of what you do is habitual and unconscious. This applies to all human beings. Nobody is an exception to this, which means since 85% of what we do is habitual and unconscious, 85% of your life is based on things that are habitual and unconscious, because we know the principle, be, do, have. So the things that you do lead to what you have. So your life that you have is based on the things you do, and 85% of what you do is habitual. So if you want to change any part of your life, what you need to change are the habits that are leading to your results. And to change the habits, you need to change your mindset. And this is why we're talking about how to build better habits. And this starts with the way that you think. So you should probably take control of your habits, because your habits lead to your results. And if you don't like your results in any area of your life, then it's habits that are leading to them. And if you like your results in any area of your life, it's habits that are leading to them as well. So every road leads back to habits. So let's get into it. Point number 1. The topic once again today is how to build better habits. Number 1 thing you need to do is do one thing at a time, meaning focus on one thing at a time. This is a very simple habit to execute, but it's a difficult habit to build for many people, especially when you are used to trying what you think of as multitasking. Now, many people believe, especially in our world today, because we have these handheld devices that are within arm's reach of us at all times, and we're usually doing multiple things, either doing something on that device and something off the device, or doing multiple things on the device, or we're supposed to be doing something off the device but we're doing something on the device at the exact same time, and we start doing what, again, we trick ourselves into believing is multitasking when it's not actually multitasking. I'll explain. There's really no such thing as multitasking, since the human brain is only capable of doing one thing at a time. This is a limitation of human beings. You can only do one thing at a time. So when you think you are multitasking, which is what you are actually doing, is you're asking your brain to do something that is incapable of. So anytime that you think you're multitasking, you're lying. You're trying to multitask, but you are incapable. No human being, unless there's some kind of AI bot listening to this show, all of you listening to this who are human beings, you are incapable of multitasking. So anytime you think you're multitasking, no, you're not. What you actually are doing is what we call task switching, meaning you give a little bit of attention to the thing, the book that you're looking at, then you give a little bit of attention to the social media feed, then you give a little bit of attention to a notification that just popped up, then a bit of attention to your email, then a bit of attention to the person who's standing in front of you talking to you, and then a bit of attention to the food that you're supposed to be eating. That's task switching. You're bit by bit switching between different tasks. And human beings are capable of task switching. The challenge is, I told you that focus is a force multiplier. I did a whole episode on that, and that was episode number 1193. Focus is the force multiplier. The longer you can stay focused on one task, the stronger your focus gets on that thing, and the better you do at it. So when you are task switching, you go from one task to another, to another, to another, and even if you're doing just two things and going back and forth every 5 seconds, you never stay on one task long enough to let the force multiply, and you get stronger and better at doing that thing, which means even though you may be able to do something satisfactorily while you are task switching, you never do it as well as you could if you had been fully focused on just that task and not doing anything else. This is why this is the first big habit that you can start to build, which is doing one thing at a time. Just doing the thing that you're doing, being fully present at that thing, and don't do or think about anything else. It's a simple habit to execute, but a very difficult one to build, because many of you have been conditioned to task switch. And even worse than the fact that you've been conditioned to do it, you think you're good at it. You think you're really good at task switching because you're looking at yourself like, well, Dre, look at me. I'm doing 4 things at the same time right now, and I'm doing them all pretty well. Well, here's my challenge to you. If you only did one of them at a time, you would be much better at each one of them. All right, you might be fine at what you're doing right now. Maybe you're better than the people next to you, but the people next to you might be a bunch of fucking bums. So what if you just focused on doing one thing at a time? You would do each one of those things better, and your results would actually be improved. So how about, instead of comparing yourself to the people around you who, hey, you may be better at task switching than they are. I believe you. I don't doubt you. But what about you compared yourself to yourself? I bet you would be better if you just did one thing at a time. So when you're trying to multitask, which you are incapable of doing, all you're doing is asking your brain to do something that's impossible for it, which means your time, energy, and focus are being burned up and not actually producing the best result. Or you are burning up so much of each one of them that when you finally do stop multitasking, you don't have enough focus left in the tank to really focus the way that you need to. So you don't want to burn it up doing something that you're not capable of doing. The fix is to do one thing at a time and one thing only. When that thing's done, then move on to the next thing. That's a very simple concept. Anybody can understand that. Anyone can execute it. The question is not if you can understand it or if you can execute it. The question is, will you execute it? I can't answer that, but you can, and you should. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to build better habits. Second thing you can do to build better habits is focus on hitting singles instead of swinging for home runs. Many people, Tony Robbins is famous for saying, he says it every time I heard him speak, he says, people underestimate what they can accomplish in a year, but they underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade. And you can swap out those time frames for any shorter versus longer time frame. Many people underestimate what they can accomplish and they overestimate what they can accomplish in an hour, but they underestimate what they can accomplish in an entire day. because we are always trying to focus on getting the whole thing done when it might take time. You might need to break it down into simple pieces, and because we can't get everything done right now, we can't get that immediacy of response, we can't get that immediate gratification, what we often do is nothing. We basically punt on a task, we abdicate from a task because we can't get it done quickly. But if you would stay focused on it, one thing at a time, over an extended period of time, you could accomplish a lot more than people who are just trying to go from instant gratification to instant gratification. The longer you stay focused on something, like I told you, focus is a force multiplier, the more results you can get from it. But many people never stay focused on anything for long enough to get really solid, substantial results from it. So you need to read between the lines of what I just said. There's a guy named Sahil Bloom on Twitter. I heard him talk about this. He called it the 30 for 30 technique, where you spend 30 minutes a day for 30 days on any task. 30 minutes is a bite-sized enough portion that anybody can do it. You spend 30 minutes a day, those of you who want to write a book, 30 minutes a day writing your book for 30 days, you could get a significant amount of writing done in 30 days. I'm not sure your whole book will be done, but you can get something done if you spent 30 minutes a day for 30 days. Those of you who want to build a habit of going to the gym or working out or exercising, you can work out from your living room now. Just pull something up on YouTube for free and you can get a workout in. If there's a gym close to you, you have a gym membership, you live in a place where the weather's nice, if it's summertime, you can go outside and work out in the backyard. You can work out by taking a walk, riding your bike, going for a run. You did 30 minutes a day for 30 days, you would build the habit of exercising, and it wouldn't be so hard for you to do it as it is right now. This is simple enough. 30 for 30 is a simple enough starting point for anyone trying to build the habit of doing anything. You want to spend more time reading. Can you spend 30 minutes a day reading? Can you read for just 30 minutes a day? Then just 30 minutes tomorrow. Anybody can build this habit and can pretty much start anything. So whether it's exercising, reading books, starting your podcast, writing a book, going to bed early, spending more time not being on social media, if you just spend 30 minutes a day on any new discipline or new habit that you would like to incorporate, you can do it. Anybody can do 30 minutes. One small action for a short period of time every single day can build a habit in a relatively short time span. The challenge for people, and also this is, let's say you consider 30 days to be a relatively short time span. Again, compared to the length of your life, if you're 25 years old, how many 30-minute periods have you already lived through? Let's do the math on that. Let's say, so you're 25 years old, and that's 300, we'll just assume 365 days, we won't add the leap years in, 365 days a year. That means you live 9,125 days on your 25th birthday. Now, each one of those 365 days has 24 hours. So that's 219,000 hours, and 30 minutes is half of an hour. So we double that number. That means if you're 25 years old, you have lived 438,000 30-minute time segments. Exactly 438,000. Now, if you're 50 years old, you can double that, and you've lived 221,900,000 time periods of exactly 30 minutes. So all of you who's listening to this right now, no, I think I did the math on that wrong. So let me do that one more time. 25 years, 365 days, 24 hours a day, 219,000, and then we multiply that by 2 because there are two 30-minute segments. Yeah, so 438,000. Now, if you multiply that number by 2, then you get to, so I gave you the wrong, I pushed something wrong here, 876,000 if you're 50 years old. And divide that by 2, 438,000 if you're 25 years old, and anywhere in between that or shorter or longer, you can do the math on that. I just walked you through it. 30-minute periods, you live plenty of them. So can you do 30 of them for 30 days? I think you can. So, moving on. We're still on point number 2 here. The challenge for many people in doing this is not understanding what I said on a logical level. This is not understanding what I said on a logical level. It's the discipline of following through. You understand it, and I just did the math on it, so everyone can agree with math. The discipline of following through and actually doing it is a challenge for many people, and there's a fix for that as well. So let's move on. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to develop better, more healthier habits. Number 3, start depending on systems instead of your memory for building healthy habits. Your memory is not as good as you think it is, and is very often very not good when it comes to things that you are not consistently doing, because your memory is a automatic deletion machines. It deletes anything that you don't see as important. And usually the things that you see are as important are things that you're doing with repetition. You're doing them over and over and over again. Your brain sees it as important because of the very reason it sees it important is because of the repetition. But if you're trying to build better habits, meaning you're building a new habit, something that you're not normally doing, there is no repetition. So your brain's going to delete it. So you shouldn't depend on your memory to remember to do something that's a brand new habit for you. You need a system in place that will make sure you do remember to do the thing, because you're not depending on your memory to do it. The system is the memory. The system will remind you to do the thing instead of you reminding yourself, because you're going to forget, because this is not a thing that you normally do. So many people listen to something like what I'm talking about here today, and then they make a decision that they're going to remember, or they're going to remember to decide to build better habits. The challenge is, as I just explained, you're going to forget this by this time tomorrow. You're going to forget everything I said. You might even forget that you even listened to this episode, unless you do something right now that commits you to what you're thinking about and the energy that you're in right now. The definition of commitment, well, not the actual definition, but the spirit of the concept of commitment, is bringing the same energy to a task 3 days from now that you had at the moment that you made the decision to do the thing. Because everybody's excited about doing something when we decide to do it, right? Everyone's excited to go to the gym at the moment that you actually sign up for the gym. That's the reason why you signed up. You have to get people into that emotional state. But then how do you keep showing up 3 months later when you're not excited about it anymore? You've been there a bunch of times. It's all become very monotonous. It's part of a routine now. How do you stay excited? That's where the commitment comes in. That's where the discipline comes in. That's where the third day comes in. That's where the systems come in. That's where the same thing, same way every time comes in. Many people just don't have this follow through, and this is why people have very unhealthy habits that are not helping them get to success, or at least not helping them maintain success. So you don't want to depend on your memory. You need a system / process that will remember for you and make sure that you actually do the thing. Because just because you remember about something doesn't mean you will actually do it. How many times have you had an idea that you said, all right, I'm going to start doing this thing, whatever that thing is, and then the next day comes and you remember, hey, I told myself I was going to start doing this thing, and you thought about it, the thought was consciously in your brain, and then you did nothing. Then you didn't do it. How many times has that happened to you in your life? You told yourself you were going to start doing the thing, then you remembered that you were supposed to start doing the thing, and then you didn't do it, even though you were thinking about it. Of course, that's happened to everybody. So what you need to do instead is utilize a system that will make executing easy. What kind of system can make your execution easy? If you don't have one, go get one. Whatever you're trying to execute on, I guarantee you, there is somebody in the world who has already created a system that will help you execute on that thing. All you had to do is identify that person, see what the system is, whether you need to buy it, you need to sign up for it, you need to learn about it, whatever you need to do, then just implement the system. Then just do what the system tells you to do. This is all very simple stuff. Many people don't do it because many people see themselves as too smart for the basics. But the basics are what all success is built on. It's the foundation of all success. So the reason why systems are so valuable is because the system does all the remembering for you, and it tells you exactly how to execute. So you don't have to figure anything out. All you got to do is show up. All you have to do is execute on what the system is telling you to do. You don't have to remember it. And every professional, people who get things done on a consistent basis, because that's one of the reasons why they're professionals, the reason why people pay them, because they can get things done consistently and predictably. Regardless of how they feel, they get things done. And they do things usually by system. Professionals usually operate by some form of system, even if they can't explain their system. And there are many professionals who are incapable of explaining their system, but they are using a system. It's one of the reasons why they become pros. And they do not do things by random ideas or random whims when they feel like doing so. Many of you are amateurs right now in certain areas of your life because you don't operate by system. You operate by how you feel. You operate by when you get an idea or a notion to do something, and you operate by whim. Like when you get excited about it, then you go do something. But if you're not excited or you're not thinking about it, then you do nothing. All right, that will keep you in the amateur state forever. If you want to be a professional, you got to do what professionals do. And I'm explaining it to you right here. I tell you every single day what professionals do. So all that being said, let's recap today's class, which is how to build better habits. Definition of a habit is a subtle, irregular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. I told you in my book, Working Your Game, 85% of what every human does is habitual and unconscious, which means 85% of your life is based on habitual and unconscious things, which means you better take control of those things if you want to change your life. Number one, do one thing at a time. Many human beings have been conditioned because of the devices and the immediacy that we have to information and notifications and dopamine hits. We think we can multitask, but it is impossible for the human brain to multitask. It is only capable of focusing on one thing at a time. So when you think you're multitasking, you are actually not. You are task switching, and you're burning up all your focus and energy. So when you finally do decide to focus on one thing, you don't have any focus left because you burned it all up doing what you think is multitasking. So the fix is doing one thing and one thing only, one thing at a time, being fully present at that. When you're done with it, move on to the next thing. Point number two, hit singles instead of swinging for home runs. Use the 30 for 30 method, 30 minutes a day for 30 days at anything. This is a simple enough way for anyone to start building any habit in any area of life. They could be reading books, starting a podcast, spending more time off social media. One small action for a short period of time can make a big change in a relatively short time span. Challenge for many people is the follow through. You logically understand what I said, but can you follow through? And if you need help following through, get help following through. You do not have to do all this all on your own. Again, amateurs have inaccurate formulas like I had to do everything by myself, and if I can't do it by myself, then I won't do it at all. That is what keeps you as an amateur. And point number three, depend on systems instead of memory for building healthy habits. Many of the things you're thinking about doing to make changes in your life, you're not going to remember simply because they aren't important to your brain because you haven't done them. You don't have the repetition in place yet. That's why you need a system. The system will remember for you so you don't have to remember for yourself. You're going to forget about most of what you're thinking about right now at this moment unless you do something that makes sure you don't forget, like writing it down. That's a system. Writing things down when you get an idea, that itself is a system. So a system doesn't have to be this big complex thing like a 20-page spreadsheet. A system is simply a process for getting things done that is followed consistently over time. So ask yourself, what systems do you have in place for the habits that you want to build? If you don't have a system, you are not going to build that habit. Very, very rare is there a person who starts building a new habit out of nowhere without a system to follow. You must have a system because that's what makes a habit, is the fact that you're doing it consistently, and if you aren't thinking about it, you're probably not going to remember to do it. So the system does all the remembering for you. All professionals who get things done on a consistent basis, which is why they get paid, they do things by system, not by random ideas or whims. If you're doing things by random ideas or whims, you are an amateur, and amateurs do not get paid for their skills. So the question is, which one do you want to be? If you want to be an amateur, that's fine. But this show is not really aimed at the amateurs. All that said, the two things I want you to do now is, first of all, text me so you can get my daily motivation every day for free. My number is 305-384-6894. And go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you can get me as the person who will help enroll you and get you into the right kind of systems to take your business, your personal life, your fitness, your whatever, where you want it to be. We must have systems and process for you to follow and execute on. That's how we know you're going to get results, because you have a system, not because you're going to get hyped up and motivated and excited every day, but because there's a system and a process to follow, and you have to be strategic about it, then accountable, then you execute. All that's at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all